You're listening to Middle-Age Movie Reviews.
Oh, Daya Hippie Middle-Age Movies Podcast. Richa Topa Ayapi, Lakotio Layla Oshaka, Metba Chiapi, Screaming Flea, Nima Podcasting Oyatehi.
Runs with scissors.
Sits to pee.
Bloge ni Tonka, otherwise known as War with Souls in the white man tongue.
All right, Sits to P. Why don't you tell us what story we'll be hearing around the campfire tonight?
Tonight we are watching Dances with Wolves, number 811 from the book of 1001 Movies You Should Watch Before You Die, written by Michael Blake, directed by Kevin Costner, starring Kevin Costner, Mary McDonnell, Graham Greene, and Rodney A. Grant.
Well, thanks, Joey. All right, Rick. Last episode, you gave us a fantastic alternate title. Are you up for another one tonight?
You want me to do it on the fly? All right, let's see what I can come up with. Okay, Lieutenant from Civil War Army hero traverses to the frontier to meet the Native American Indians in the wild to explore and find himself, finds instead life.
Very nice.
Nicely done.
Now, can you do that in Lakota Sioux?
You'd have to give me a minute.
All right. I won't pick your brain for that. What I do want to know, though, Rick, is when was the first time you saw Dances with Wolves?
All right, so this one I actually remember seeing as a kid. I vividly remember being at one of my grandma's house and having nothing to do, and it was for some holiday. I couldn't remember which one. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Christmas. It could have been, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. And I remember being in one of these guest rooms, these side rooms, having nothing to do. You know, I used to play video games and I used to do stuff outside, and I don't think either of those things were options because didn't have or too cold. So I was watching this movie that, I don't know, someone suggested, thought it would be cool or something, or maybe one of my brothers was watching it or something like that. And anyhow, I remember watching it. And I remember being like, oh, yeah, this is kind of cool, man. You know, like these Native Americans and things. And I mean, I don't quite remember tons about it, but I do remember having a positive experience watching it. Even when I think I probably was like 10 or 11 or something like that. I was really, really little. And I remember thinking positive about this movie back then. And I'm pretty sure I have not seen it since. So the very next time was just a couple days ago for this podcast. And one more time, I am very excited about this one.
All right, nice. I'm looking forward to hearing your exuberant descriptions of this film. I'm kind of in the same boat. You know, I remember watching it as a kid, but recently, I don't think I've watched it since like the 1990s. But I'll get into that a little bit later. Tim, since you're our Native American aficionado, our John Wayne Western guy, when was the first time you watched Dances with Wolves?
I actually seen this one in the theater. This was one I seen, Matt, if you'll remember, the town cinema. It was the one super large screen we had in town that wasn't an outdoor drive-in at the time. So it was basically like watching it on a mini IMAX. I think I've probably seen it 2 or 3 times in the theater. My mom was infatuated with this movie, and she would just drag anybody she could to watch it over and over again. So I'm pretty sure I went at least 3 times to the theater, and it was something that ran at our home quite often. Then I left home and probably haven't watched it since until this week.
Nice. You know, I'm glad you brought up Town Cinema. The one and only movie I ever remember watching at Town Cinema was, oddly enough, RoboCop.
Okay.
And as a fellow fan of RoboCop, I'm curious, Joey, when was the first time you watched Dances with Wolves?
I also saw it at the theaters. I think my dad took my mom to it as a date night, but they had to bring me with because, you know, I was 11 and I wasn't old enough to stay home alone yet. I thought I saw it at a different theater than the one Tim described, but it was a very big screen. I remember that. And it is a 3-hour movie. So, yeah, I did fall asleep.
All right. Well, gentlemen, this movie I never saw in the theater. I saw it for the first time, oddly enough, in like 7th or 8th grade history class. At the time, we were learning about the Civil War. We were learning about the frontier. We were learning about the Indian Wars. And the teacher found this to be a great time to nurse her hangover, and she'd pop the movie in. And for like 4 days straight, we'd just sit there and we'd watch the movie in half-hour to 45-minute increments.
Matt, I gotta tell you, I think you guys know that I teach, and nowadays there are so many stipulations to having movies play inside your classroom. And I taught social studies. I wanted to play the movie Glory, but because it is from the 1989, I think it was, and it had a different way that they rated the movies, it was rated as R, man. But the educational value for those type of movies like this one and that one and a handful of others seems like it'd be worth it, at least with like a pair permission slip or something like that.
Right.
But nowadays, nah, man. If the rating is not good, it's not gonna happen.
Well, thank God, Rick, that your students can now go watch our episode 27 and find out what they're missing with Glory.
Hey. That one was good too, wasn't it, man? That was good.
It was excellent. That is one that you told me I had to watch, and I was kind of like, we'll see. And I was like, holy cow, I can't believe how good this movie is. So yeah, it was a great viewing and a great podcast.
So listeners, if you want a double feature with Dances with Wolves, check out Glory as well. As Tim said, episode 27. All right. Well, Tim, as our resident medicine man, what are you going to request for the synopsis tonight?
All right. Well, first off, Matthew, Rick's done it. I did it at the beginning. I think it's your turn, sir. Without an Irish accent this evening, I would like you to tell your version of Kicking Bird's story in the Lakota Sioux language as a synopsis. Go!
No. Oba, Suna, Ochiwa.
Literally, all you have to do is copy the text and throw it into the Google Translate.
Oh,
and
no.
Try your best. Try your best.
No, sir, that will not work. I had to dig for almost 3 hours to be able to get that intro I did correct. It was that hard to translate. So Google is not going to help you with this one.
How about this? I know Shonochi Tutanka Obawachi.
Yeah, I don't think that's the synopsis, sir.
That's close, though. It's close. It's close. It's not quite.
All right. Apparently, this is the role Matt was born to never do. So I'll have you do it like this instead. I would like you to do it as Cardboard Costner, as Lieutenant John Dunbar, as he writes a new entry into his journal about his time at Fort Sedgwick and his encounters with the local natives.
All right, let me try this. So then, many moons ago,
No.
Wrong one.
You must be devoid of any inflection in your voice, and it must come as if you were thinking it in your head.
Okay.
Wait. Before you start, I think we need a little bit of background music just to make it more authentic. Just because every single time when he narrates from his journal, there's that little bit of very soft tones coming through, you know?
You think we need to have music for this? Now, hang on. I'm going to get you proper music here, Matt. Hang on. We are going to make this happen. Sir, here is the music to which I want you to do it to.
Here we go. I have survived the Battle of St. David's Field after being wounded and learning I was to have my leg amputated. Instead, I opted to charge the Confederate lines one last time. In an ironic twist of fate, not only did I survive the charge, but it led to an unexpected Union victory. Recognized by General Tide, I was tended to and awarded any post of my choosing. I chose the western frontier in order to see it before it is gone. Upon arriving at my new post at Fort Sedgwick, I find it abandoned and in disrepair. Determined to fulfill my duty, I elect to stay and rebuild the fort until reinforced or relieved. My solitude is soon broken by continuous visits from a wolf I have named Two Socks. But Two Socks is not the only visitor to the fort. I have encountered scouts from the local tribe, My encounters so far have had mixed results. Some seem as curious about me as I am of them, while others appeared far more aggressive in nature. I have fortified the fort to the best of my ability should I need to defend myself, but I am hoping to establish some sort of rapport with them, as I am interested in knowing more about their culture and feel positive relations will serve both the Army and their tribe in future encounters. Lieutenant John Dunbar, Commander, Fort Sedgwick.
Very nicely done. I don't think Costner could afford us any more better than you just did.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes, very well done.
Yeah.
That was about as monotone as one can make it. All right, Matt. Well, that was about as cardboard as you could get, but I think we still have to compare it to the real thing. So, sir, if you will, why don't we play the trailer of Dance with the Wolves and see how you fare?
All right, gentlemen, here we go.
Just hear that you've been decorated, and they sent you here to be posted.
Actually, sir, I'm here at my own request.
Why?
I've always wanted to see the frontier.
You want to see the frontier?
Yes, sir. Before it's gone.
There ain't nothing here, Lieutenant. Everybody's run off or got killed.
What about Indians?
They took out all the voiceover.
Yeah, as I say, there wasn't a whole lot of audio to that trailer.
Yeah, you should have played that trailer when you was reading, bro.
Should have.
Well, I think you win.
You know what that trailer reminded me of, though? The Robin Hood Prince of Thieves.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't have Bryan Adams in the background or whatever, but had that same kind of vibe there a couple times.
All I can think of is somebody walked in that editing room. They're like, hey, you got no dialogue in this trailer. He's like, yeah, shit, if we let Costner talk, nobody's coming to this thing. They're going to fall asleep.
You know, I am curious, which came out first? Was it Prince of Thieves or this movie?
This.
Okay, is this Kevin Costner's first attempt at directing?
I think so, yes.
Okay. So not only did he star in a 3-hour motion picture, but he also directed a 3-hour motion picture.
Yeah, because nobody else wanted to direct it. So he's like, fine, I'll direct it too.
You know, before we go a little further into the film, I do have one question. So what would you classify this movie as? Because it doesn't feel like your typical 3-act structure. It feels like it's almost like a biopic kind of thing, but not about any actual historical figures.
Yeah, it's hard to really classify it. I mean, it's a Western, but it's not really a Western.
Mhm.
Even though they claim it's the biggest grossing Western ever, I would not say that that's necessarily what this is. I feel like it's a fictitious look into another culture. I don't know. Anybody else want to help me with this? Because I'm sure you're having a hard time.
I'd just say it's a drama, honestly.
Yeah.
If I was going to say if this was like a book, it actually was drawn from a book, right? Isn't that what it was, Tim?
Well, Michael Blake wrote a screenplay, and he wasn't getting anywhere with it. Nobody was interested in doing it all. So Costner's friends with them, and he says, hey, why don't you turn it into a book, get it published, and then you might have a lot more interest in it. So the guy's like, oh, it's not a bad idea. So he goes and he does that, and the book does really well. And Costner, he wants to do this movie from the get-go as soon as he's seen the original screenplay. So he snaps it up right away and says, you know, look, I want to do this. So they shop it around, and they finally, after getting turned down all over the place, get somebody to finally agree to put some money up for this, but not a lot of money. And they couldn't find anybody that wanted to direct it because they're like, this is just going to be another money pit. This is not going to do well. So Costner not only said he'd star in it, but he would direct it. And then eventually he even puts in a lot of his own money, I think like up to $3 million just to help finance this thing, because they have to finance it while they're filming because they didn't get all the money. So it ends up being like a 5-year project for Costner that everybody's basically saying is going to be a giant, flop for him. I think it was an $18 million budget and ends up grossing like $400 million worldwide. So he wins.
Yeah, because I mean, it gets recognized and wins 7 Academy Awards. So yeah, it's an interesting story.
I bet the book was probably labeled as historic fiction because a lot of these places that they go to and the things that they do and the little skirmishes and stuff, all that stuff is totally not real.
It's a non-documentary.
Yeah.
Based on events that may have happened in the Old West.
This is just a fictional narrative period piece.
There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, Joey nails it.
All right, Joey slaps out his one solid card. All right, so any other last things to add about the trailer before we move into our movie? All right, your silence is golden. So, a wounded John Dunbar decides to ride out and draw out the Confederates in an almost suicidal act, thereby creating a battle situation that allows the Union to overwhelm the Confederates at the Battle of St. David's Field in Tennessee. So, I have to say, when I first watched this movie back in grade school and seeing Kevin Costner lying on the hospital gurney, I couldn't help but wonder, what are we watching? Because all you just see is soldiers getting amputated and all the stuff that was occurring in the field tent or the MASH tent, I think is what they called it. I'm not sure about that.
In the Civil War, it was called a wall tent.
Thank you, Rick. Yes, the wall tent. It's kind of gruesome, the opening sequence of just seeing these people getting amputated. And it just kind of goes to show that this is just them just doing their job. They move on to the next soldier and they're like, well, you know what? Let's have our coffee break. This guy isn't going anywhere. And sure enough, he is going somewhere. What do you guys think of our introduction of John Dunbar and how we just kind of like get thrown into the middle of this gory battle encrusted wall tent?
Yeah, man, that's basically how it was. Most of the people in the Civil War died from diseases and from getting shot and then getting their stuff amputated and things like that. Actually dying on the battlefield really wasn't super duper common compared to dying from other things.
Oh, yeah. It was the secondary infections that would get you, not to mention they don't even clean the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look on that table, you see all that blood. That's not because that was the last guy they took care of. That's the blood from every guy they took care of. So, yeah, the odds are you're going to get something because you're just getting sawed into with the saw that's taken off probably 50 legs that day and it's covered in God knows how much blood and whatever else those guys are carrying at the same time.
Yeah, they could have boiled their tools, but nobody knew any damn better.
Yeah.
Well, so it was during the Civil War that they started to actually figure that kind of stuff out. So that's kind of the silver lining with all this. This is really when you started to see advances in the medical field.
Oh, yeah, for sure, because it was almost medieval medicine up to that point. Basically, if you got hit, it wasn't, oh, can we save the leg? It's just like, well, let's cut it off and hope he doesn't bleed out. I mean, that was it.
Yeah.
That was the best doctrine you were going to get in those days. So apparently the general must have had a little bit better surgeon or something, or guy that maybe had a little bit better idea that, hey, maybe that's not how we should go about it. But he was only tending to the general and nobody else. So the rest of those guys were, as we would say, screwed. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting beginning for this film for what it is. This whole beginning, probably first 30 minutes, is pretty weird.
Yeah.
I know we're just scratching the surface of the beginning, but I'm just going to say it's a strange beginning considering where the rest of this film is going to take us.
Yeah, I have to kind of agree. It is an interesting way of starting the movie out. And seeing through it through modern day eyes, it definitely feels more like you can feel the disillusionment that Lieutenant Dunbar has in fighting because, they're camped out on one side of the field. The Confederates are on the other side of the field, and they're just taking pop shots at each other because nobody wants to really advance. And it isn't until Dunbar decides that, you know what, I've had enough. I don't know if it was like a suicide mission for him or if he was just like, you know what, I'm fed up. I got to do something. And he just hops on his horse and starts riding. And watching it, I immediately think he's just looking to end it.
It's clearly a suicide mission. He looks down there, realizes they're going to take his leg. He's like, oh, hell no. He puts that boot on. I mean, he has to bite down a stick to do it. Walks out there, kind of asks his buddy, like, what's going on? And he's kind of like, well, we're at the same place we were at once you got shot. So nothing's really changed. He's like, well, this is as good as any place to go out. He doesn't charge that line with a gun. He just charges that line and he whips those arms up. That's the equivalent to today's death by police. Draws on a cop, hoping a cop will shoot him just to kill him. And they miss. They're all horrible shots. They all miss them the first time. He's like, well, if you don't succeed the first time, try again. He goes for a second round of it.
I am curious how accurate those muzzle loaders were back then.
They were not that accurate. The Confederates, for the most part, still were using those smoothbore muzzle loading. I hesitate to call them rifle. The Union, and you get to see this later on, some of them, particularly the cavalry, they had the 1961 Spencers, which were a repeating rifle. And the Southerners, the Confederates, used to actually say that the Union Army, the Northerners, would be able to fire all week and then have to reload on Sunday because they had 7 shots inside.
But even at a smooth bore, and Rick's not wrong, it's a smooth bore rifle, and they're notoriously bad. But at distance, I mean, he was pretty damn close.
Yeah, he was.
You gotta be a really bad shot to miss. You don't even have to lead him that hard. I mean, he's right there, and he's not moving very fast. So I don't know. These Southern boys should have been able to pick him off with no problem. I just was like, these guys are really, really bad shots.
The cool thing that I really liked about this was when his fearlessness, or death wish, we really should call it, was the thing that actually inspired the rest of the troops to rally around him and commit to a charge. And the thing is, with this type of warfare that was going on in the Civil War and the Revolutionary War, War of 1812, that type of stuff, it was basically who charged typically won. So if you committed to a charge, if your troops were emboldened enough and courageous enough to actually charge, bayonet in hand, then typically you won the battle. It was a test of nerve. When it comes down to it, there's a reason why we say fortune favors the bold. And I think in this movie, I think there's a few times when this actually is the theme.
Right. Well, after everything's said and done, and they managed to basically capture the Confederate soldiers, General Tide shows up and sees Dunbar's laying on the ground, and Dunbar asks, "Don't let him cut my leg off." And General Tide says, "No problem. I've got the best surgeon that Harvard can educate." And he says, "Son, you can have any post you want." And he chooses the frontier because in his mind, he wants to see it before it ends. I think he wants to see the frontier because it's the furthest away from the battles going on right now because he's so disillusioned. What do you think is the reason why he wants to go so far away from what he's familiar with?
I think it's pretty much what he said. I think he just wants to go out and see the frontier before it's gone. And what a better way to do it than on Uncle Sam's dime kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure he's as disillusioned as every other soldier was with the Civil War. I mean, it was brutal. It was bloody. It was not a lot of fun. Let's just put it that way. But even going out there, what's the first thing that guy says? "Oh, you must be an Indian fighter." He's like, "Sir," he's like, "Oh, if you want to go out there, yeah, obviously you're an Indian fighter." He's like, "No, I just want to go out there before it's gone." He's like, all right. I don't think you win on either one because out there can be just as bloody and brutal too.
Right.
In just a lot different way. But I think he's pretty genuine. I think he's just like, I want to go see the frontier before it's gone.
Look, man, when this shit was happening, I was watching it, I was like, wait, what the heck is going on? What's going on with this dude, right? Because a lot happened in that scene, basically, with the officer that was in charge of duty rosters or whatever it was called, assignments.
Yeah, the self-appointed king.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what the heck was going on, man. I actually kind of looked this one up. So this isn't coming from me, but from what I looked up, it had talked about how there was symbolism going on here where when he left to where he was going and then what that character represented was basically the war was going to be left behind him and all of the rules and regulations with regard to the military and how war is operated to a place that had no rules, to a place that was totally foreign to him. And that it very well could mean that his life as he knew it had died as soon as he walked out of that door. And that was the symbolism of the guy shooting himself.
Shit, I just thought the guy had syphilis. It was probably going mad.
I'll just say, I got the impression that he was just stationed out there for too long and he just went stir crazy.
I like the syphilis angle better.
So I watched the special edition. I don't know if you guys had watched the special edition either, but they kept intercutting Dunbar's travel across the plains with the soldiers at the fort. Did you guys see any of those scenes?
No, I just watched the 3-hour version.
Okay. Well, the only story going on at the fort is you find out that there was a corporal there with about like 6 other guys, and they were holding the fort, and they just lost their mental capacity, and then they just go off and walk away.
See, now how long was your version? Was yours 3 hours?
3 hours and 50 some odd minutes.
Oh, see, mine was like 3 hours and I think 2 minutes or something. I thought maybe it was longer, and they had that scene in it. So maybe I did see the special edition.
Mine's 3 hours and 56 minutes, and it's the Dances with Wolves special edition.
3 hour, 56 minute. Okay.
Yes.
Rick, did yours have that scene with the soldiers leaving the fort?
I don't think so.
Then I must have watched the extended version too.
Okay.
I'm a little confused because I was watching it on my Plex server and I realized that I had only ripped one side of the disc, and then I had to go and get the disc and put it in. Of course, after I did that, my wife's like, well, I'm going to make some popcorn, blah, 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 a bunch of messing around happened. And then we finally sat down and watched the second half on my DVD. And so I've kind of lost track of time, but now I think about it, I think I started about 5 o'clock in and around 10. So there was some time lapse in there.
So you had your own intermission.
Yeah, I wanted to have the feeling of the original cut that was like 5.5 hours, the very first cut of it. I wanted that experience, so I made it happen.
Yeah, I too had a little bit of snafu. The first version I got my hands on didn't have translations for the Native Americans. And as soon as that first Native American scouting tribe shows up and they were speaking and I didn't see what they were saying, I was like, wait a minute. I have a lingering suspicion that this is going to be a huge problem.
Oh, man, you were really into it. You're like, I'm not going to read no subtitles. I'm going to learn it like he learns it. So you were like, force yourself to learn the language as you watch the film.
That's exactly right.
Tatonka.
Shugmuni Totonka Awachi.
Yes. So, we get this long, epic, almost John Ford scene of Dunbar going out to Fort Sedgwick from Fort Hayes. He gets his quote-unquote sealed affidavit giving him safe passage to Fort Sedgwick from Major Farnborough.
This will give you safe passage across the lands by the stroke of my pen.
Yeah. So, he's on the supply wagon out to the fort. He says that he meets the most disgusting man in the world. I just can't help but laugh because I recognize that guy from Murphy Brown. I don't know if you guys ever watched that TV show back in the 80s.
I remember it.
Yeah, for sure. Eldon?
Yeah, I'm like, hey, that's the guy from Mommy Brown.
Mommy Brown? Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Is there a little something we need to dig into there? Do we need to pull the onion apart a little bit and see what that meant?
If you ever watched Howie Mandel, he had his own cartoon show called Bobby's World, and he was always making fun of Murphy Brown. He called it Mommy Brown.
Okay.
A reference within a reference within a reference. It's a true enigma there.
We'll go with that.
But yeah, so I seen that guy. I was like, oh, hey, yeah, I remember him. And yeah, just his whole interaction with Eldon or whatever his name was in the movie. It's kind of poetic because as they're moving along, I mean, he's a Slav. He's eating the beans out of the tin can and then like chucking the tin can to the side, just kind of showing you that, no matter where the white man goes in this movie, he just leaves a trail behind him. You guys have any thoughts on Dunbar heading out towards Fort Sedgwick?
I thought it was cool that in his journal, he said that it would have been cooler if this dude wasn't there. That was the thing that he was said about this guy. He was like, this would be a much better journey if this asshole wasn't here.
Actually, I think the thing that sums up that character is when they come across that burned up wagon and they walk over and he's like, what do you see over there? And he comes over, he's like, ha ha, like, look at that guy. And somebody back, he's asking, why don't he write? Why don't he write? And then that guy takes an arrow just like that poor bastard and ends up in the same position. Like same arrow, same position, the whole deal. I'm like, there's some karma for you.
Well, not only that too, but like when they go to bed at night, they're half sleeping under the wagon. Costner wakes up first and he realizes, oh gosh, this is terrible. He wakes the guy up by taking an arrow and poking him in his ass. And what's the first arrow that takes him out when the Indians show up? It's an arrow to the ass.
Yeah, that's true too. And that guy deserved it. That's the guy that you're laying down in your rug sack on the ground and he comes up and farts in your face. That's what that guy is.
Right. Of course, Dunbar winds up at Fort Sedgwick and he sees what kind of disrepair it is and how terrible it looks. And the wagon driver says, maybe you should just head back with me because this place is just deserted. It's completely devoid of life. It's pointless to start anything here. Dunbar decides to stay. They empty the supply wagon. But he at least hands an olive branch to the most disgusting man alive and gives him a box full of jarred pickled eggs. And I have to say, watching this movie with my son, what he got out of this, he wanted to try pickled eggs. So I'm like, out of everything we've seen, that's the only thing that you take from this film. He's like, yeah, I want to try pickled eggs.
Well, if he really wants to try authentic pickled eggs, then they actually have a 100-year-old pickled egg that they sell in Asian markets. And if you guessed that the egg color is black, you guessed correct. Because these things are crazy. All right. They feature them on reality TV shows such as Survivor, where people have to eat these things for challenges and Amazing Race and all those things. Pretty wild stuff. Although I have to say, while that is wild, it is the balut that is the most wild.
Yes.
Those are crazy. Especially when you get the beak going down, man, I tell you.
So, Rick, for our listeners, you want to describe what balut is?
It is a partially fertilized egg. You get feathers and beaks, a little bit of beaks and stuff. And
I would say not fertilized, developed.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Partially developed egg, yes.
So, yeah, back to Dunbar. So he's at the fort. He's kind of cleaning it up, and he discovers that the watering hole has all these dead deer in it. Thankfully, he discovers that they're not poisoned. They just left the dead deer. Now, that's perfectly good venison. I don't know about you guys, but if I found a small river with 12 deer in there, that's a crying shame, man. That's a lot of good venison there.
Pickled swamp deer?
Yeah.
Oh, well, no. That'd be totally sick to be eaten upon that, but it is a shame.
What concerns me more is I've been to a lot of barbecues at Matt's house, and I'm a little scared now what I might be eating when I show up.
No. I don't cook any game.
He found it inside the river. It must be good, bro. It's been fermenting.
It's 100-year-old deer.
That's why it's black. I understand now.
I'm never coming over when there's a flood, eating ditch rabbits and stuff.
Well, I'm referring to the fact that they kill the deer and then they put them in the water. You know, if you shoot the deer, at least skin it and preserve the meat.
You are not helping your cause, Matt. You should just move on.
All right.
No, Matt, I totally got what you were saying when you said it. It is a shame to have that perfectly good meat go to waste.
Yeah. I mean, you're out on the frontier. If you played Oregon Trail, you know that going this far, you're going to wind up either A, breaking an axle, B, getting dysentery, or C, dying from a rattlesnake. So you got to survive off the land.
Mm-hmm.
So he does the only thing he thinks he can do there, and he just gathers up all the dead carcasses and burns them. Now, when I was watching this, we see the shot of him setting the fire, and then we cut to some Pawnee, and they make a comment that, only a white man would make a fire for anyone to see.
But I have to say, when I was watching that shit, I saw what he was doing. I put that shit in my notes. I was like, hell no. I tell you, I probably wouldn't want to burn the deer, but I wouldn't do it. And if I did do it, it'd have to be at night.
Yeah.
I would probably rather bury it for fear of what type of attention it would attract.
Dude, that was a huge pile of deer, though. I don't know. That's a lot of digging you got to do to bury that amount of deer, because you got to bury them low enough that you're not going to attract other wildlife to them, which means you've got to dig them extra deep. So your two choices are you either have to drag them a really long way away, which I don't think is possible with the amount that he had, or you got to burn them. There's just not a whole lot of option.
Then the option would be burn at night, not during the day.
Yeah, but even out on the plains like that, you're still a beacon.
Yeah, he was in a little bit of a valley, so that might have helped with that regard,
No, that's true.
But they faked us out. You think he's going to get attacked, and instead we're seeing the little fire of Stinky Fat Man, and he gets killed by the other tribe of Indians.
Did you notice that when the dude got shot in the butt, did you notice how concerned he was about the mules?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was that about?
They're his horses. They're his mules.
He loved them.
He got shot in the butt already, though. like he knew he was going to get killed, and he was worried about these mules. I always thought that was kind of strange.
I think he's just a crazy son of a bitch. It's the only thing that loves him.
Hey, crazy son of a bitch.
I mean, really,
Crazy son of a bitch.
they're his only friends in the world, pretty much.
Yes. Now, when I was watching this, I forgot that the one Pawnee guy, he looks a lot like Pete Poswith from our movie The Usual Suspects, but it's actually a guy named Wes Studi. And I'm like, am I watching a British guy pretending to be a Native American?
Yeah, no, he's probably the third most prominent Indian in this outside of Graham Greene, and then I would say Rodney A. Grant.
Yeah, man, this dude was in The Last of the Mohicans.
Yes.
Which that was the movie that I saw in social studies classes when I was younger. That was cool, man.
Yeah, I saw that one too. And I think that's in our 1001 movies list too.
Oh, boy.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hopefully that page turns up.
Yep. So we get a little more of the fort life and what's going on with Dunbar. And after cleaning up the fort a little bit, he winds up seeing a wolf and he nicknames the wolf Two Socks. And he tries to develop a rapport with the wolf. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've actually learned a little bit about wolves because over here in this state, there is a wolf sanctuary that I ended up taking the kids to. And I discovered that wolves have a 2-mile fight or flight radius. So they'll actually see you like 2 miles away because they are so keyed into their environment. And the fact that Two Socks just kind of shows up maybe 600 feet away from Dunbar, I'm thinking, yeah, there's some liberties taken here because you don't see the wolves. The wolves see you first.
Yeah, but he's probably inclined to come towards the fort because he probably smells the food that he's cooking. Obviously, we have not seen a lot of game. All the deer, have been slaughtered and thrown in the lake. So he's kind of like, I smell food. I should go check this out.
Yeah. So he starts to develop a rapport with this wolf. And I think it's kind of interesting because I have a theory about this movie that I want to share with you guys. I think I might mention it more later, but I have a feeling that there's some supernatural stuff happening in the background if you know anything about Native American lore.
What are you kind of getting to as far as the Native American spiritualism?
So there are tales of skinwalkers and Native American deities that take on human form. And part of me is wondering if maybe Dunbar did die during that battle and that really a spirit entered him and it's slowly making its way across to the Sioux. And maybe everything that's happening to him is because it's being ordained by this deity or this soul walker. And the fact that he can commune with Two Socks and the fact that his horse continues to come back to him, that maybe there's some kind of animalistic connection between him and this deity that's inhabiting his body.
Matt, I don't know what you're smoking, but can I have some?
Well, I don't know if I've heard anything quite like that with Native American religions. However, I have heard of things where animals actually can be a host for a spirit.
Right.
However, to your point, there is a very famous Native American tribe that did believe that the gods could inhabit human beings. They were the Mexica tribe of Mexico. Most people know them, however, by the name of Aztecs. They would actually flay people's skin and then put them on someone else, usually slaves, and then they would have them for a whole year be treated as a god. And then after the year or so many months or whatever, they would sacrifice them, release their power.
Isn't that the plot of Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
It's a ripoff from the Mexica tribe.
Man, I would be with Joey on the whole. I think you're smoking too much peyote, but there is that one statement in there where they're like, this white man seems to have some powerful medicine.
Yes.
So they feel like they see something in him too. So maybe there's some kind of weird underlining spiritual thing. It feels like a stretch, but I'm not going to dismiss it completely because there is enough there that the rest of us just aren't seeing and you picked up on.
But again, I've read a lot of weird stuff in my life.
Or you're just trying to make this movie much cooler than it really is.
Maybe I am.
Oh, I should say that's not fair to the movie, but you're trying to make it a little more sci-fi than it possibly could be.
Yeah. But, we get some establishing social conflict as Dunbar and the Sioux Indian Kicking Bird have an awkward interaction at the fort. Dunbar is just washing his clothes, washing himself, doing a little skinny dip, and just enjoying the all-naturalness of his environment. And that's when Kicking Bird tries to steal Dunbar's horse. What did you think of Dunbar and Kicking Bird's interaction here?
Well, I took Kicking Bird by surprise. And if you got a naked white man chasing after you, yeah, I'd fall backward into the fence, fall down, and get the fuck out of there too. But Kevin, originally, like, he's just ducking out. He's fucking scared. But as soon as he hears that, it's like, oh, you're going to steal my only fucking horse, my only way out of here. Then all of a sudden he got really brave and he truly goes balls out.
Hey, I don't know. Anytime I see walks with a tripod, I would get a little nervous too.
Yeah. So now that we're introduced to Kicking Bird and he's tried to be a horse thief, he goes back and he reports to the tribe about the lone white man. And of course, Wind in his hair wants to attack the lone white man, but Kicking Bird thinks it's bad medicine and should try to talk with the white man. Some young Sioux, I believe his name was Smiles a lot, tries to steal Dunbar's horse at night, only to get a surprise instead. And the horse basically throws him off and heads back. The next day, Wind in his hair takes a bunch of Indians and tries to steal the horse the same way, and the horse does the same thing that it did to the young Sioux. I thought it was very apropos. You guys have any thoughts on the horse interaction with the Indians or scouting party?
I thought it was a badass horse. Like I said, with the John Wayne movie we watched recently, we reviewed the Rio Grande. You could check it out. We just had a review on that one. But just like in that, dude, horses are awesome, bro. Horses are awesome. I had a conversation a few years back with my cousin who actually lives in Mexico. And we were talking about when he go out to the bar and he would come home on his horse. And we had a conversation about, you ever worry about your horse getting lost because you're drunk and stuff. And he's like, no, the horse knows the way home.
I believe it.
He's like, horses are badass, bro. Horses are badass, man.
What if your cousin goes to a different bar? Would that throw the horse off? Like, oh man, what happened to going to the old place?
I don't know. I don't know how that works. But from what he told me, they know. The horse knows, man. The horse knows the way home. That's what he said.
I guess when you only got Costner on the camera for a long swaths of time, you got to have some other kind of character you can throw in there. Like, go find me a smart horse. Let's put him in there. Kind of the comic relief of the show, if you will.
You're right. I mean, we spend so much time with Costner and, him writing in his journal, just telling us what's going on. And at some point, it gets kind of boring and your brain just kind of goes, well, what's going to happen next? I want something to happen. And something does eventually happen where Kicking Bird and Wind in his hair attempt to bridge the gap of communications and cultural differences. And we get their first interaction with Costner. And we see him trying to do, I guess, very poor charades with our couple of Indians. What do you guys think of him imitating a Tatonka or a buffalo and just the whole interaction between the Indians at this point? Because we know that Kicking Bird's like, well, we got to make friends. And Wind in his hair's like, no, we should just kill this white man. I think it's kind of interesting that they both kind of come together to determine what's going on.
Well, they don't have a choice because 10 Bears is like, no, we're not killing him. Go talk to him. So that's it. 10 Bears, the chief has spoken. Doesn't matter what Wind in his hair wants. They're going to go talk to him. So he's kind of forces his hand. But I don't know. I give Costner a lot of shit most of the time. But I'm going to say I actually liked his performance in this. This was actually a great movie for him because, again, the guy doesn't have a lot of dimension to him. He doesn't have a lot of acting chops. He's kind of a one-trick pony. But this was one of the movies he was meant to do. His personality and his delivery is perfect for a voiceover journal entry film kind of thing, which is a good portion of his dialogue. So I thought he did really good. And then I found it interesting, though, once it comes to him starting to interact with the Indians and he's putting that cloth in his back and trying to show horns and stuff. And I'm like, dude, get a stick, draw on the ground. How hard can that be? I mean, literally, go get a stick. I think you could draw a buffalo much better than, trying to reenact one in a third grade school play.
This is the same guy who played chicken with an entire, battalion.
Well, this is true, but, in its defense, he lost a lot of blood and thought he was going to die in the most horrific way. So I'm going to give that one to him. But still, dude, stick. Even if you can't find a stick, pull out your knife and start scribbling in the ground. I'm sure you can start to draw and come up with a fairly okay looking buffalo.
I think his pointer finger would probably suffice, actually.
There you go. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And I think when his hair, pretty much sums up, he's like, He's lost his mind. We should just kill him. I think he's rabid.
So I thought that these little meetings they had with the tribe and when the wise man spoke, I thought that shit was awesome, man. And the elder, he didn't say a whole lot. He was like, we will talk more on this later. And that was that, man. It was like, all right, the conversation is over. Everyone get the fuck out.
Yeah.
I ate that up, man. I thought that was super duper cool. And when I said earlier, we just had mentioned him doing like a suicide run. Fortune favors the bold. And here we are again. He encountered the Native Americans twice. They tried to steal his stuff twice. So he was like, look, this ain't going to work. I better just go out there and make it happen. So he gets himself ready and he goes out there and he finds the lady. He brings her back and stuff. And that gave, a little bit of good reading on him to these Native Americans so that they can kind of maybe understand that he ain't necessarily as bad as, the white man is all cracked up to be.
Right.
Well, and I like that you point out the Indians having counsel with each other. And I think it shows an excellent dynamic where you have the very young and brash winds in his hair. He's like, just kill these white guys. Like, we got no use for them. They're below us. They're not Sioux. We should just kill them and get rid of them. And then you got the middle-aged kicking bird who's a little more like, I'm not real sure that's the way we should go. And then you got Ten Bears. He doesn't say a whole lot because he's thoughtfully pondering this situation and using his experience to come up with what he thinks the outcome should be after he hears everybody's input into it. So it shows that the tribe all kind of has a say, at least as far as their thoughts go and how it should be handled. And then they look to the elder to kind of make the final decision. So it shows a really nice tribal cohesion and respect to the elders and to the chief, that whatever he decides, that's what they're going to do, regardless of what their feelings are. So I thought that was a really nice dynamic that was captured in that. I think you're really good for pointing that out, Rick.
I just want to add another thing in there. Later on in the movie, when Ten Bear reveals that conquistador helmet.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it kind of helps go back to this whole scene where you kind of realize that all of Ten Bear's experience and everything that is going into this moment, he knows that there have been people in the past that have done things. And I just thought that that was really cool because they were able to at least link these two scenes together. So this is why he was taking in so much and understanding and putting in a lot of thought.
And that's the verbal tribal knowledge that the Indians had. They didn't write things down.
Yeah.
Everything's done verbally and it's passed down from generation to generation. When he pulls that out, he says, this was a helmet that my grandfather's grandfather had. But he still had the knowledge of the helmet because it was passed down and he retained it. And now he's going to tell these guys the story so they know it.
Right.
Oral tradition.
Yes.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't scoff at oral tradition. In fact, if I remember correctly, it's kind of ironic, but Socrates said that the invention of writing would be the death of memory. The ironic part is that he didn't believe in writing stuff down, so nobody would have known he said it if Plato didn't write it down for him.
All right. Rick, you had mentioned Mary McDonnell, a.k.a. Stands with a Fist, or also known as President Rosalind for all the Battlestar Galactica fans out there.
Hey.
Dunbar runs into her as she's grieving, and I'm assuming that she was trying to commit suicide because she was in grief over the loss of her husband when her husband goes on a raiding party to attack the Pawnee.
Suicide is a theme in this fucking film.
Yeah, very much so.
We kind of glossed over the fat man blowing his brains out after he pissed his pants.
True, but nobody could help him after he pissed his pants.
That's because nobody could stop him after he pissed his pants.
No one
True.
can stop me now. I'm Pee-Pee Pants.
That's his superpower, bro.
Major pee-pee pants.
Yeah, he did have major Pee-Pee Pants, didn't he?
All right, that's the last one I'm setting you up for, Joey. So Dunbar runs into Stands with a Fist, and he basically saves her, and I think that kind of helps bring an olive branch or a bridge to the Sioux. Again, just another theme of building bridges, laying plans to communicate. And I think that that's another theme in this movie. Is it's telling us to not be afraid so much of our neighbors, not be so afraid of people that are different from us. What do you guys see? Do you think the same thing, or am I reading too much into this movie?
I don't know if that's necessarily the theme of the film. He kind of states it. He's like, I've been told one thing about these people, and I find it to be completely the absolute opposite. They're not these savages and killers and thieves. So I think it's more of a sometimes you just got to find out for yourself kind of thing.
Okay.
Because he's scared. When they first come along, that first time he sees them, what's the first thing he does, man? He starts getting the guns out, fortifying everything. So there's a fear there. He's been taught that this is the way they are and you should prepare because they're going to attack you. And then I think he realizes slowly that that's not actually the case.
Mm-hmm.
On the flip side of that, if wind in his hair had got his way, that's exactly what would have happened.
True.
So would he have been wrong? I don't think so. It was only because Ten Bears is like, look, we should get to know this white man because the white men are going to come.
Right.
And we can't stop this. It's not going to be like it was before. They're going to keep coming. So making good relations with this one white man, he might be able to speak for the rest of the whites and help us create treaties. So there's some underlining reasoning as to why they want to make friends with him, not necessarily because they're just interested or they don't see him as a threat or anything like that. There's something to be gained.
There's some political motivation to it all.
Yeah, I guess you can say that more or less. So in one hand, what he's been told is not wrong necessarily, but on the other side, they have made the decision that they should try to make the effort. But if it had been the Pawnee, they'd have just killed him.
Yeah.
And again, they would have been right. So it's not as cut and dry as you're trying to present to us. That outcome could have been 100% different. And even as we're going to find out, as much as we want to look at this Sioux tribe as, you know, oh, look how great these people are. They got some dark sides to them. And we're going to see that later when they go on a raiding party against some hunters. And then later on, they're going to go attack the Pawnee.
Yeah.
And there's even statement here where the Pawnee had said, we weren't invading the Sioux back then. The Sioux were invading us. And we were defending ourselves. This movie doesn't portray that well. Like we were the victims here kind of thing. I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm just saying that, you know, there was a lot going on and there was some pretty dark themes that go on along with that.
Massacre Canyon. August 5th, 1873, a large Sioux war party attacked around 350 Pawnee on a government-sanctioned buffalo hunt, killing over 60, mostly women and children. The Sioux were nomadic, and the Pawnee were semi-sedentary who lived in earth lodges and farmed in Nebraska. And so maybe they were the ones living in the caves. I don't know.
So I think we got to take some of this movie with a grain of salt.
Right.
It's not as cut and dry as it's presented at first view.
I think Lieutenant Dunbar actually said that a number of times in his journals. Like if he was going to actually do anything that in this place, that he would have to actually make something work between he and them.
Right.
And then later he talked about how he longed for the next time that he would see them. And it was a progression. It was like, yeah, they're not so bad and they're kind of cool, but there's no one else around. And then it was like more and more and more, there was a development. And at a certain point, he, considered them friends, and they considered him, honestly, by the end, he was like a brother.
Yeah.
But I also get what Tim is saying, too. You can definitely get the more authentic view that most people had regarding Native Americans, or at least the propaganda surrounding it. Because there was tons of propaganda surrounding just getting rid of Native Americans. It was crazy.
It is a story where there are certain things that had a slightest thing happened, it'd be a completely different story. And I think he got lucky on some degree running into this particular gentleman, Kicking Bird, being able to have a conversation with him via Stands with Fist. Her parents were killed by a warring neighboring tribe, and she was picked up by Kicking Bird and raised. So, there are certain conditions that have occurred for this storyline to take place for him to be able to get where he's at. And like I said, we learn a little bit about Stands with Fist and the fact that she does remember some of the white man's words, and she's able to at least communicate with Dunbar and help bridge that gap between him and Kicking Bird. And this then, of course, allows Dunbar to build a better relationship with the Sioux to the point where he's almost able to come into their village. But it's not until the night that he finds Buffalo running across his, I'm going to say, lack of a better word, his lawn.
Yeah, that's about right. That's about right.
Yeah, and so he immediately hops on his horse and tells the Sioux that, hey, there's Tatanka. They immediately realize that he's invading their territory. He just shows up unannounced, and the first thing they do is they tackle him. They start beating the crap out of him, and it's Kickingbird who says, oh, wait, no, he's saying something. He knows where there's Tatanka. He knows where there's Buffalo. And it's just an immediate flip that, oh, hey, he knows what's going on, and they're able to send out a scouting party and find the trail. Sure enough, they invite him along. So now he's, in a way, made friends just by being able to tell them that there's buffalo. And I just thought that was very fortunate for him, as well as another lucky shot. What do you make of this whole sequence?
Dude, he was super fucking close to the buffalo, y'all. Like, really close, man. Those things are freaking massive, man. They're massive.
Oh, yeah.
No, no way. This dude was way too close. This dude should have died. We talk about lucky. Yes, he was lucky he didn't get trampled by a herd of buffalo, bro. Because he ran up the hill. He very well could have got trampled where he was at, inside his home.
Yeah.
You could feel that shit, dude. These things are heavy, bro.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're rattling the stuff off the walls because there's so many of them. They're so massive.
They're removing the lawn. They're not just on the lawn. They're removing the lawn.
I remember the first time I seen one when I was in Colorado. I had actually thought they had gone extinct. And I seen when I lost my shit. I was with my aunt. I was like, "Oh crap! That's like that's a buffalo." I thought they're dead. She's like, "No, they're alive." See one up close. Damn, them things are big. Let alone a bunch of them out in the field. That was really cool to see that.
I think technically what we're seeing in the movie is bison, but they were also commonly called buffalo, whereas buffalo is more like the water buffalo that you see in
Africa.
Oh yeah,
buffalo is African. These are bison. People just call them buffalo.
They also called Native Americans Indians, and they weren't from fucking India. It is what it is.
It was cool to see all those buffalo on this program. And it's legit. I mean, those are not fake buffalo. They use like 3,500 buffalo in this filming, and they go out of what we're going to see to be the hunt coming up here. They actually filmed real hunts. Now, they had a bunch of mechanical buffalo that they were shooting at because they didn't want to harm real ones, but still, they would run those buffalo every day, and they'd run that herd. It would run for like, I think this said like 10 miles or whatever, and they were only able to film once a day because they'd have to run them all the way down. And then these wranglers would bring them all the way back so they could set them up for the next day to redo it over and over and over again. So I looked up the statistics, and here it is, guys.
All right.
The logistics of the buffalo hunt that we're going to see involves a helicopter, 10 pickup trucks, 24 bareback Native American riders, 150 extras, 20 wranglers, 25 recreated buffaloes, and 7 cameras. And it took 8 days to film with an additional 3,500 buffalo that they used for the actual stampede.
So there's your $3 million budget right there.
Yeah, but didn't it pay off?
It did, man.
Yeah.
Not only did it pay off back when it came out, here watching it almost, 30 years later?
36. So it came out in 1990.
Where I was sitting, it looked good, man. It looked real good.
It has to, because it's real.
Yeah. It looked good. The dust that was flying up, that's all real, The bison is real. Like, dude, it looks good.
You probably could recreate this in CGI, but it doesn't have the same feel, the same presence as an actual filmed buffalo or a herd this large running through there. And yeah, I mean, even today, when I'm watching this, I kind of wish I had it in surround sound, because I remember watching it at home, growing up on VHS, and we turned on that surround sound and you can hear the buffalo behind you and around you. That's something you want to hear on like 7.1 channels.
If this came to the IMAX, I would go see it at the IMAX again. I would pay to go watch this movie one more time just to see that sprawling countryside with all those buffalo. I mean, when are you going to get cool shots like this that aren't just some CG bullshit? You know what I mean? Like, he took the time. They have real buffalo in this. That's what makes this so epic, because it doesn't just look good. It looks good because it's real.
Yeah, man, I probably would do the same. If they had this at the IMAX or something, yeah, I very well would probably be down. I don't know about the rest of you. I would probably be down.
Yeah, I would like to see this on a big screen. Like we said with the Rio Grande and the John Ford films, I mean, just the fact of scope and scale of this film. And I can understand why it got Best Cinematographer as a nomination for the Academy Awards.
Yeah, he really embraced the whole Ford style of filming.
Yeah. Not only do you get these cool scenes of just all the buffalo, but the hunt itself was pretty action packed because, you see that one shot of the lone buffalo running off that has a couple of spears and arrows in it. And you think that Smiles a Lot is done for. And you get that action sequence of Dunbar like riding up with the gun and just taking pot shots at him and finally killing that buffalo. That was some pretty cool cinematography there.
You know how they got the buffalo to do that?
No.
He was actually charging his favorite pile of snacks. That buffalo loved Oreos. So they put a big pile of Oreos out, and the buffalo seen it, lost its shit, and went running at the pile of Oreos. And that's how they filmed him charging at the Indian from his perspective.
That's wild, man.
And that, yeah.
That's wild.
Can you see that? Like, okay, if you want this buffalo to charge, we're going to need like a pallet of Oreos. Now I need everybody to start opening them up and put them out here. And when he sees them, just get the hell out of the way.
Yeah, that totally sounds like one of those like really funny things. Like, all right, we got to take this shot. We need the buffalo to do this. All right, what we got to do? All right, we need a moving camera. We need a revolving Spencer's 1861. We need a plate. We need 2 packages of Oreos, and they need to be put into a pyramid shape so that it can see them, and it has to be on a table.
And a glass of milk.
And a jar of green M&Ms.
The only other thing that was funny about this, too, that whole scene was the first time they went to film this, everybody got on horseback, and the wranglers got these buffalo going, and they just went. And all these Indians, they're running with the buffalo, and they got to the end, and Costner's like, nobody shot at the buffalo. The fake ones that they had going, they're like, we were just so enamored with the buffalo and ride with them, we just forgot. We forgot to do it, So they lost like a whole day shooting right there because everybody was just having so much fun and in such awe of riding along next to these giant beasts that they just forgot to shoot the robotic ones as they were going. So then after that, it became a badge of honor that everybody that started at the beginning, by the time they got to the end, had to have an empty quiver of arrows. But I can't imagine what that experience would be like. I mean, that'd be like running with the bulls.
Yeah. I would rather be on a horse riding with buffalo than running with bulls.
I concur.
I agree as well.
Don't get me wrong. I run and I like bulls, but I'm not running with the bulls.
Yeah, I'm going to take the horse. I only run with Chase and I don't like to be chased. So, yeah.
Yeah. And, it was kind of neat that the hunt allowed Costner's character to develop more of a relationship with the Sioux. I mean, he even saves one of the young men there. I think this also kind of helps build a bridge between him and wind in his hair.
I think this whole sequence right here really does a lot to educate people on the Plains Indians, how they lived and things, because right before the scene that we were just talking about, where they're actually hunting the buffalo, we saw the aftermath of some white frontiersmen who were just killing buffaloes to take their hides.
Right.
And you see the aftermath of that. And I'm not going to lie, man, the score was really hitting home, and it totally was sad, man. It was super duper duper sad. And you really get to feel, at least I did. I was really feeling distraught over that, thinking like, dang, man, this is like their way of life and it's being destroyed. But is there going to be hope? And then obviously in the next scene, you do get to see that hope. And then it comes full circle when after the hunt, like you're saying, they have this feast. So you get to really see that whole trajectory of their lows and how their way of life was being impacted by people who were coming just to get the hides of these animals, to what happens after a hunt and how that affects the tribe.
Well, and the thing I wish they'd have gone just a little further with that whole bison hunting and just taking it for their skins and stuff was that was some of the dirty pool our government pretty much played against the Indians. They didn't pay poachers to hunt buffalo, but they fully endorsed and sanctioned it because the theory that the government had was if we kill off the food source of the Indians, then we'll kill off the Indians. Kind of like that same thing in Braveheart. Like, well, if we can't get rid of them, then we'll just breed them out.
Right.
Ergo, that's why they were hunting them things so hard. They didn't need them for the meat. They just like, well, we're killing them and we'll just get money for the furs and stuff. And we're getting paid for that because the government has sanctioned it, kind of thing. It's already bad enough because you're like, fuck, I can't believe people are doing that. You're enraged when you see it. But to know that our government was endorsing that just takes it to that next level. And I felt like maybe he should have had a little bit of that voiceover in his mind where he's like, I was hoping I would never see this, but it's true that the government does blah, 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 just that it was historically happening, I think would have maybe just been a nice little add-in piece there to tell people the background as to why that was happening.
Yeah, the governmental influence was even worse than that. I know for a fact in California, they were actually offering bounties to kill Native Americans. It was very bad.
Yeah.
That's why Native Americans scalped the white man, is because it was for revenge, because you had to prove that you killed an Indian. And so to prove that you killed the Native American, you scalped them, and then they'd pay you for your scalps.
Yeah.
And so when they scalped the white man, it was just tit for tat.
Yeah, but I don't know if scalping started there. I think they were scalping each other long before that.
Yeah, you might be right there, Tim.
Well, anyway, after the hunt, Dunbar goes back to his fort. He's kind of lonesome now. So he decides that, he's going to ride back to the tribe. And on his way, his wolf buddy, Two Socks, follows him. And Dunbar keeps telling him, go back home. He jump off his horse and he's trying to shoo the wolf away. And we get this neat little interaction of him, what looks like dancing with the wolf. And that's viewed by two of our Native Americans, and they decide that they're going to give Dunbar a true name, and they call him Sumani Tutanka Uwachi, a.k.a. Dances with Wolves, the title of our film. What do you guys think of this whole sequence where Dunbar now gets his quote-unquote true name? And we kind of see the turn from him being a Union soldier to being more part of the Sioux.
I thought it's cool, man. I don't know. I guess maybe I got to meet some Sioux Native Americans and they could give me my true name. Like I said, I think that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I'll use what I made up for this review, though. But until then, that's all I got, until I can actually get a true name from the Native American tribes.
I really enjoyed the interaction with the wolf. In fact, I almost wish there was a little bit more. You want this to become kind of like his companion or whatever. That's kind of how I was about it anyway. I just really liked it. And I thought it was really fitting that he's kind of out there trying to protect it. But I enjoy that the Indians see him doing it and they give him a very fitting name. It's not just something they pull out of their ass or they just gave him a name to fit the narrative of the story. It's just, oh, look, they gave him an Indian name now. He's kind of proved himself. He's been on the buffalo hunt and stuff. And then they see this and they're like, oh, he's dancing with wolves. I liked the interaction and I liked the way that he comes about the proper Indian name.
Yeah.
It turns out there was no wolf and there were no Sioux tribe. It was just peyote. I would have liked that version.
He's just high all the time.
Yeah. It's really the wolf is like his Wilson before, Castaway came out.
No, you know what this entire movie is? It's Jacob's Ladder. He's still sitting in that tent.
He's in surgery.
Yeah, and that wolf is a spirit guide. Got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So now that Dunbar has his own true name, he basically continues to be assimilated by the Sioux. Kicking Bird and a group of Sioux warriors leave the camp to fight off some interloping Pawnee scouts. And I find it rather interesting that Kicking Bird asks him, why do you want to come with us to fight Dances with Wolves when the Pawnee have done nothing to you? And he kind of tells him, well, I want to help because you're my friends. They're attacking you. And he's like, well, we have a better idea for you. Why don't you stay here and keep track of the women and children? Make sure everyone's safe while we're gone. And that allows him to not only develop a relationship with the rest of the tribe, but it also allows him to continue this relationship with Stands with Fists and allows them to more or less get a whole romance going on in the background of the story. And it doesn't feel, to me, watch this movie, it doesn't feel like it's forced. It actually fits and flows with the storyline because you would think that because he's interacting with her so much, they can develop this bond, they can develop this friendship, they can develop a romantic interest with each other. And it seems to continue to grow and grow as we progress through a montage of them in the tribe. Rick, what did you think of this quote unquote relationship that's developing?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely good, man. I mean, I do believe that Lieutenant Dunbar had previously mentioned that the key to good relationship development was getting laid. So it was just, continuing to lay the framework, I suppose. But it does feel genuine, actually. And I don't know about you guys, bro. They were rocking the 80s hair in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
That was cool. That was very cool. And it actually kind of made sense, too, because they were like in the wild. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kevin Costner's character was always looking like he had a barber on hand at that fort that no one lived at.
Right.
But she looked super authentic with her hair for the most part. Most of the time, it actually looked really, really authentic.
I even wrote down, did she like comb her hair with fireworks or something?
Yeah, it definitely looked like she had some, frizz going on and that, she really didn't have a comb.
I think it's because they didn't know how to handle that hair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because Indians have very coarse, straight hair, much like my own. It's super straight, super coarse. You can't do shit with it. It's like having straw on your head. And her hair was not that. It was like curly or like slightly wavy curlies.
Yep.
It, had a lot of volume to it, which, Indian hair doesn't have. So they were like, shit, we don't know what to do with this. This is uncontrollable. It's like a freaking weed. So I think that's why they cut it shorter than they did the rest of them, because they just didn't know what to do with that. Although Costner, on the other hand, I enjoyed how not only did he have a mullet going on in the back, but somehow he had one coming off his lip too. It just kept going till it turned to like the front mullet, mustachio mullet. So I enjoyed that very much.
At least at this point, he's decided to shave it off. She even points it out. Hey, what happened to your face? It's like, oh, I shaved it. But, I want to get your opinion, Tim. What did you think of this, quote, 1880s montage of Costner basically courting her?
The interaction between the two of them is good all the way through, I think. She does a great job, but we kind of glossed over the early parts of it where she comes in and starts to become the interpreter. She's a little scared of him, doesn't want to get sent back to the white camp, if you will. But I think she does an extraordinary job of, first, somebody who kind of remembers how to speak English, but not really.
Yeah.
It was super believable. Like, I think she nailed it, like as somebody who'd been speaking Lakota for so long now that she barely remembered how to speak English, and she was really having to force herself to remember how to say it. And it felt genuine to me. And I think the love story progresses much that way too. It's very genuine. She's like, I'm in mourning. I should be doing this. And they kind of fall in love. And it's very obvious that this is going to happen. Anyway, Kicking Bird's wife is kind of like, how long are you going to leave her in mourning? He's like, I don't know. He's like, well, she's kind of found love. He's like, who? Dances with Wolves. Well, what's everybody else think of this? She's like, it makes sense. They're both white. They should be together, kind of thing. We're all behind it. You're the only one that doesn't see it, nor do you acknowledge it's happening. I thought it was well played out. I mean, as far as a love story goes, George Lucas did not write this one. This one was well done, well played out, and it felt very believable.
Yeah.
It's sand. It gets everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, how about you, skid marks and pants? What did you think of the whole interaction with Costner and McDonald?
Did you just call them skid marks and pants?
Sometimes. Not every day. Well, we're seeing where the home video trailers that are marketing this is like almost, a romance film. We're seeing where they're getting all this footage from. It is definitely a subplot, but this is a 3-hour fucking movie, and it's not all about Stands with Fists. But then again, sometimes, you get tired of, dick in hand. And so you hook up with Stands with Fists. But as I always say, it's better to stand with a fist than sit on a fist.
All right. So, we see a lot of interaction between the tribe and Dances with Wolves. He's there to help defend against any intruders, and Dunbar winds up having to defend the village because the Pawnee warriors are spotted coming close to their territory. And so Dunbar says, hey, I've got more weapons at my fort. And him and Smiles a lot takes off to the fort to collect his Spencer rifles. Rick, what do you think of Dunbar arming the Indians to help defend the village?
Yeah, I mean, I think they made a comment somewhere around, maybe it was right after the fight took place, that never before had they had so much of a one-sided victory.
Mhm.
And it was all because that he, took that risk because they were worried he wouldn't come back in time, but he took that risk to go get the guns that he had at the fort. I thought that was really cool too, that they kind of laid a little trap. They knew they were coming, and it definitely paid off for them.
How about you, Tim? What do you think of Dunbar arming the Sioux tribe and helping defend them against the Pawnee that show up the next morning?
Most of the people who are detractors for this film, this is one of the main scenes that's always cited. It's, oh, look, the white man has to come in and rescue the Indians, if you will, and show them how to fight because they don't know how.
White savior.
Yeah, the white savior syndrome, I guess, is, as they would call it. But I don't really think that's what's happening here. I mean, one, he's slowly becoming part of this tribe. We're to that point now where they've given him his name. He's more with them than he is now as part of the military. And I think when he offers to go fight with them, I think, it's a genuine, like, look, the enemy of my friends is my enemy kind of thing.
Right.
Even though when they're like, well, no, you can't come because you're not Sioux. And he's like, but look, I've been a soldier maybe longer than some of these guys that are going to go. I don't think that was, I'm just a better warrior. I think he was just trying to point out that, like, I have experience, like, I can handle myself, I can help. And they're like, no, you can't because this is not your fight, but I have a greater task for you. I want you to stay and defend my family, which is a great honor, as they point out. This is a big honor. And then again, the detractors will say, oh, look, I got these tactics, I can get this, and I can make you better fighters. It's not like that. I mean, if I'm going to be in a battle and I'm standing shoulder to shoulder with my friends and I know something that can help turn the tide, especially when a better part of the better warriors from the tribe are ironically off trying to attack the Pawnee while they're coming around to attack us, I'm going to help you however I can, and if arming all my friends in this battle is what's going to do it, I'm going to do that because I have that ability. These are my friends. These are my people. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. So again, I think it was just a genuine offer by him to help these people that he's now become closer to, almost like part of their family. So he's going to do whatever he can. Plus, he's made this promise. I will defend your family while you're away. He's going to honor that promise. I don't have the issue with it like a lot of people do. And I think it's great. It's exactly what I've done. I'm like, look, I got all these guns. I'm going to hand them to you guys. Now, he is introducing modern weapons to a tribe that's never had them.
Right.
So it's kind of a minor miracle that he's able to hand them to them and they're so efficiently able to figure out how to use them. I mean, granted, they've probably seen some settlers use them and things like that, so they have a roundabout general idea, but they're still lever action, mechanical things that they've never worked. I don't know how good they would be with it, but apparently fairly good since, again, it was a one-sided battle.
They should have had a fun and zany montage of him teaching them how to shoot guns.
I was just going to say that for this being a movie that's 3 hours and 56 minutes long, it would have been nice to have seen like some kind of connective tissue between him bringing the guns and showing them how to use them. Very like, I don't know, Army of Darkness. Ha, he, hoo, ha, ha.
Yeah.
But then you lose the suspense though, because unlike Army of Darkness, where a bunch of people coming in on foot, these guys are coming in on horseback. They're moving quick,
Right.
They only have a limited window. I mean, he hardly has time to even go get the guns and bring them back, let alone train them on how to use them. So it's a little unbelievable that they were able to effectively grab this basically piece of machinery and figure out how to use it in the heat of battle. Yes, but I'm going to go with it, and I guess as long as you show them basically like bullets go here, bullets come out
Right.
there, use this to make that happen. That's the basics. And I guess as long as they understand enough to aim the gun. But, the first one does it. What's he do? He pops up, he grabs the rifle by the barrel and smacks that one, Pawnee over the head and breaks the buttstock off the gun. He's like, no, shoot them with it. Don't hit them with it. So there is that moment where he's trying to like show them in the heat of battle how to use it. But I don't know. I don't know how you could have effectively done it, but it felt like it just needed a little something like you're saying, but I don't know how you would have made it work.
Well, what about you, Files 1040 EZ? What did you think of this whole sequence?
Well, when you surround a guy and shoot at him, thankfully he was up on that horse. Otherwise, they would have all shot each other.
Yeah. I thought it was rather poetic that it's the same guy that killed the wagon captain.
Yeah, they set it up that you're not supposed to like him because he killed the fat, smelly guy who loves his mules.
Yeah.
And that actor, I've seen him in a bunch of stuff and I can't think where.
Oh, that's Wes Studi.
Yeah.
Wes Studi's been a lot of stuff. He's Mystery Men.
Oh, yeah, he was the Sphinx.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He's like their spiritual leader and mystery man.
What else has he been in?
Last of the Mohicans,
Yeah, he's in Street Fighter. He's in Avatar.
Geronimo.
He shows up in a lot of stuff, man.
Lots of movies, man. Holy smokes.
Well, and he has the coolest name in this one. He is known as the toughest Pawnee.
Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, this was a really great cast in here. And, you know, I'm a big fan of Graham Greene. I like him a lot. And this wasn't just the only movie that I've seen him in. I do remember him from Die Hard 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yeah.
I also remember him from a TV show I watched when I was a little younger called The Red Green Show. It was a Canadian comedy that made fun of Canadian public access TV.
Maverick. Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's really the breakout Native American star out of this one. I mean, this really brought him to the forefront.
Yeah.
Because what do you say every time you see him? Oh, that's the guy from Dances with Wolves. He was a great, great actor, and it's a shame that he passed away last year.
Yeah.
R.I.P.
Well, hey, speaking of Graham Greene and Kicking Bird, so Kicking Bird shows back up to the village with the hunting party. He discovers that Stands with Fists and Dances with Wolves are kind of in love with each other. And he tells her that, okay, you're no longer in mourning. And then there's this sequence where Dances with Wolves wants to marry her. So we get this almost like dowry situation where he has to present stuff to Kicking Bird to try to buy off Stands with Fists. And I just thought it was kind of neat that, you know, here you have the entire village coming together to bring him presents to give to Kicking Bird. And I thought that that was very much a symbology as to how much he's integrated himself within the community of the Sioux tribe. What do you think about all that, Rick?
Yeah, I don't know if that was in my version, honestly.
Oh, really?
If it was, I completely missed it.
Okay.
I'm going to look it up real quick, but I don't know if I remember seeing that.
Okay. Like I said, I watched the special edition, so like it was close to 4 hours. So obviously that's something that was added. What about you, Tim? Did you see that in your copy?
Yeah, it was in mine, and I thought it was really cute. It was a nice moment where he's really fretting. And I like how he's sitting with Winna's hair and smiles a lot. And you feel like they're almost screwing with him a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you think about this? No. Well, how about my horse? It's a pretty smart horse, but no, I don't think that's going to cut. Because these guys know everybody's going to give him stuff because everybody wants to see this union happen. It's even more kind of heartwarming moment where the rest of the tribe brings a little something to give to him to make this happen. And then he sets it all out. And he's like, it was the longest night of my life. And he's looking out the tent every once in a while. It was a very kind of cute, heartwarming moment.
So I looked it up, and it definitively is not in the theatrical version.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't see it.
Gotcha.
I didn't get to see it, yeah.
Gotcha. Well, you really didn't miss a whole lot. It's more of a humanistic moment, as they might say. What about you, Joey? Did you watch the special edition where they highlighted this? And yes, I did call you Joey because I don't have anything more witty to say as far as an Indian name right now.
How about makes wife mad?
Every day. It's a running time of 3 hours, so I'm assuming that this is the theatrical edition.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so Kicking Bird winds up acquiescing to the proposal and does marry Stands with Fists to Dances with Wolves. And we get this kind of fun moment where you see the wedding and you hear in the narration that, you know, he's not even paying attention to what's being said. And then, of course, Kicking Bird asks him, do you understand everything I told you? And he's like, yeah, totally. Yeah, I get it. Yep. Yes, I totally marry her. You are now man and wife. And then they spend like 4 days in Dances with Wolves teepee. And we get some jokiness from Smiles a lot. And I think the other Indian kid's name is like Otter or something. And they decide that they're going to pull the flap that allows the smoke to leave the teepee to force the couple out of their tent. And I just thought that this was a fun scene of teenage angst within the tribe. It, of course, is Kicking Bird that stops them from doing that. I am curious if this is something that was added in on the special edition, if you guys had seen any of this. Tim, what about you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watched the special edition.
Okay, this is 4 hours. The special edition is just shy of 4 fucking hours. So, yeah, I'm watching the theatrical version. I had no idea it was like Lord of the Rings fucking long.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure that scene wasn't in there either. From where I was standing, they like went into the tent and then something happened like right away pretty much.
Hell yeah, something happened, all right.
The key to a good relationship is being laid.
All right. So they're now married, and the village now decides to leave. They decide to pack up for the winter campsite, and Dances with Wolves decides that there's nothing left for him back at the fort. He decides that he's going to go with his new wife to go live with the Sooth for the rest of his days. And then he realizes, oh, shoot, I left my journal at the fort. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would probably just leave it behind, because outside of him telling them where the tribe was initially at, there's really nothing there to indicate where they're going. So I think it's pretty safe that he could have just left it behind.
I definitely understand why he went back, especially if it was really like not really a thing. Yeah, he could catch up. All he got to do is go and get this last little thing and it should be all good. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just so happened there was a whole troop of people there. But to make matters worse, it was ironic because he really didn't have to go back despite the fact that there was a whole troop of people there, because the people who first showed up decided they were going to use his book as toilet paper. So in the end, really didn't even matter. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I also get conflicted about how the U.S. Army handled the whole situation. You know what I'm saying? Because there were trackers and there were frontiersmen who did dress like Native Americans in order to function in that neck of the woods. I don't know. It just seemed like it was a complete overreaction.
Well, I didn't like this because I just felt like it was a clumsy plot device. It's so obvious when he goes back to gather up his stuff. He's sitting down. He takes the time to write his little statements on there. And then his final Dances with Wolves loves stands with a fist and closes it and tosses it on his bed and then walks away. Now, why would you take all the time to write that shit in there and then not put it in your saddlebag or whatever it is you're packing up? It's the only part of this film that kind of infuriates me because it's clumsy to be able to get you to this last part of the film. And it's just dumb. Just dumb. And yeah. And then the irony on top of it is that it didn't make a shit bit of difference because all it was being used is for shit.
Yeah. The whole sequence from when he forgets about his journal to showing up to the fort, it just feels like it's rushed. I mean, we had, 3 hours of him just in this environment. He's developing this relationship. Everything is there. But then within like the first maybe 10 minutes of him coming back to the fort, they destroy everything about him, which I think kind of leads to him saying what he says when he's in chains to the general. But it seems like it was too quick. Like there needed to be more stuff laid there.
I think you're right. It feels forced and clumsy, almost like they made this beautiful movie and now I don't know how to end it. Really, they could have just ended like Dunbar lives the rest of his life with the Indian tribe, happily ever after, until 13 years later when they're finally forced to surrender to government forces. They just don't go that route. They're like, we just need an epic ending. The only thing that re-engages me in it is you're sad to see the buffalo. You're aggravated that they shoot his super smart horse.
Right.
But the wolf.
Yeah.
When they shoot the effing wolf, it infuriates me to no end. That poor wolf, he's just hanging out there. They're just shooting at him. And you're already like, you're hating these guys. It just turns up the hate to 11. There was just no reason for them to shoot this poor wolf. He wasn't hurting nothing.
Yeah.
So then I'm re-engaged. Now I'm back in.
Like you said, it re-engages you. You look forward to seeing something happen to these soldiers. I found myself rooting at this point more for Dances with Wolves and his Native American friends, to the point where when they ambush the wagon that's taking him back to Fort Hays, I'm like, yeah, kill these despicable characters, because that's what they're viewed as from this movie. They are the despicable characters.
Well, and they got what they wanted out of it. Name me one other movie where you've ever rooted for the Indians. Every other Western, we're rooting for John Wayne, or we're rooting for, the man with no name or whatever.
Last of the Mohicans, bro.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, there we go. So two though.
I'm
that's
always rooting for the Native Americans.
Sure.
No, I think my favorite was Major League, especially when Charlie Sheen comes out.
Wrong Indians, dumbass.
Oh.
Let's give him the top.
But yeah, that's really what I tried to go for. Let's make the military so despicable that we will literally hate the white man and start rooting for the Indians. And they got it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you get to that point, and then they rescue Kevin Costner's character, and they take him back to the Sioux village, and we get this wonderful reuniting of a young married couple. And then there's like maybe 10 minutes of him arguing with the village as to what needs to be done. He convinces them to pack up and leave, and he decides to take off by himself with his wife to get away from the village so that he can keep the village safe. And I don't know about you guys, but did you happen to notice that when the soldiers do show up to this empty area that where the village used to be, they actually have a bunch of Pawnee with them?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, they have Indian scouts, and that wasn't uncommon.
I just thought it was interesting that you can clearly tell that these were the Pawnee, which were like the nemesis to the Sioux the entire movie. And now they have both nemesis teaming up. So it's like the enemy of my enemy is also the enemy of my friend, and my friend is my friend that is also my enemy. And yeah.
But why did they attack Lieutenant Dunbar so fiercely if they have Native American scout on the payroll? You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck, man?
Exactly. That one I don't get. Flaw in the writing. Maybe they hired them after Dunbar left.
No, but it's not a flaw in the writing. I mean, that's legit. Like, they had Indian scouts that they hire, but they were quote unquote civilized Indians that had been reformed and were working for the white man. So those were good Indians. That's how they look at it. You know, a good Indian is somebody who has assimilated to our culture, has, you know, taken on Christianity and is helping us hunt down the rest of the Indians. And the rest of them, well, they don't want to assimilate, so we just need to eliminate them. So that was legit back then.
Right.
And why did they hunt him down so hard? Because he went native. He went the reverse. He was one of us and he went native. So we can't have that. We can't have more people wanting to go native like this. So let's hunt him down and make him an example.
Yeah. I mean, they even said when they were interrogating him that, oh, we see you as a traitor now.
Well, he gave all the guns to the Indians. He armed the enemy.
Yeah, but they didn't know that shit.
I think they did.
You think so?
I would like to think so.
If I know that the last dispatch that I sent out was with this one guy named Dunbar and 2 entire wagons full of stuff, and we show up at the fort and I can't find one gun that we sent out there, where did they all go?
Well, they didn't even know who the fuck he was, man. He was trying to tell them who he was, and they're like, bullshit. We don't even have any journal or nothing. We don't even know who the hell you are.
Yeah, because, again, if you look at it, he left, and that one major shot himself.
Mm-hmm.
And the other lieutenant, he didn't remember Dunbar, even though he was friendly to him in the fort when he was being interrogated and beat the heck out of.
Well, you're not wrong on that.
Again, there was something missing in the fact that communication broke down. And I think part of that communication also broke down was because the wagon driver that was going back to report back to Fort Hays was ambushed by the Pawnee.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason why he wasn't recognized. He didn't know about it because he only had interaction with one guy at Fort Hays.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah, so Kevin Costner's character manages to convince 10 Bears to move the camp. And we also get a very solemn goodbye with him and Kicking Bird. Throughout the movie, we see scenes where Kevin Costner's character is building a peace pipe, and he finishes building it and he gives it to Kicking Bird, and Kicking Bird in turn gives him one of his peace pipes. And I thought that was very poetic, good trade between them. And it kind of helps seal the whole fact that they will always be friends. And speaking of friends, we also get another really cool sequence where Wind in His Hair is on top of the cliff shouting, "He forever will be Dances with Wolves' friend." What did you think of this, Rick?
The peace pipe thing, I thought that was super cool because it was something that was happening throughout a majority of the film, that he was actually making this thing. But the thing that I did take from the end here was that cool little fight scene that we got right before this happened, when he was getting his jailbreak away from the military. And that one dude who was giving him so much shit was trying to play dead in the water and trying to like skate his way out. And the Native Americans were just going ham.
The Irish sergeant, you mean?
It was pretty good. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, what about you, Tim?
I remember it having a really deep impact on me when I seen it in my earlier life. In later life, it was a little, I don't want to say clumsy, but a bit of a letdown. I know there's no word for goodbye in the Lakota language. So that's part of why you got Wind in His Hair going up there and just declaring that he's his friend, because he doesn't know what else to say. There's no closure there outside of that.
Gotcha.
And I think he's kind of like, I didn't like you because you kind of replaced my best friend, but now you're kind of my best friend. So it was quite a journey for that guy, I guess, in some regard. And I understand the exchange of gifts between him and Kicking Bird. That was really good. I think it was the end part where you see them going up the mountain together. 13 years later, the Lakota Sioux would finally surrender to the United States government, and the last of the tribes plains was over, kind of thing. It just felt a little short. Again, they made this really nice movie, and I don't think they really knew how to tie it up nicely or to really give you that feel-good ending. So you don't get a lot of closure there. I don't know what would have made a good ending. I have no idea. I don't know if any of you guys got an idea how it should have ended. It would have been better, but it didn't feel as good to me as it did when I was younger.
It felt a little flat. I wouldn't say it was like an Empire Strikes Back ending, but it definitely needed something different, something more, something maybe more happy or upbeat.
I don't know. I think it was probably meant to be a little bit bittersweet here at the end because, I mean, while throughout the whole film, we are captivated for the most part and we will suspend our disbelief. But here at the end, I mean, I think reality comes back and we're like, oh, yeah, those motherfuckers all die off, as Joey has said a few times already. So, I mean, I think that's maybe kind of why it's kind of like that, because there is no happy ending, man. Unfortunately, their way of life ends, and that is unfortunate, not happy.
I think you guys are complaining that, like at the end of Titanic, you're like, oh, fuck, the ship sank. It's like, what's going to fucking happen.
Yeah.
And the lines from the trailer build it up. He says to Major P Pants, or Major P's in Pants, if you want to give him a Native American name. I want to see the American frontier. And he goes, why? And he goes, before it's gone.
Yeah.
And he does.
Yeah, good call. Good call.
Yeah.
I guess there's two ways of looking at this. It's kind of like a Stephen King novel. What is Stephen King most notoriously known for? He doesn't know how to write an ending. I mean, literally most of his books leave you hanging and wanting more with an unsatisfying ending. But on the flip side of that coin, Stephen King's argument is simply, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. So we've had this lovely journey throughout this, 3 hours or 4 hours, depending on which version you've watched.
Right.
It's mostly satisfying. It didn't give us this feel good ending or this maybe all the closure we wanted, but Joey might not be wrong. Is it that horrible? No, I've seen much worse endings, but yeah, it's not what we're used to. Usually there's a nice little, bow at the end. We're all happy. We walk out of the theater and life's good. And this one is a little bittersweet.
Yeah. Especially after watching something like Rio Grande. We got an early Western where everything ended with a little bow on top. It's definitely the antithesis of a movie like that. Well, gentlemen, that has been Dances with Wolves. But before we give our rating, let's take a look at that IMDb and see what they rated this film as. IMDb rates this at 8.0 out of 10 stars, so a solid 8. It won 7 Oscars and is considered a film of historical and cultural significance set in the Old West, with its captivating story about a disillusioned Civil War soldier and the changes he makes while bridging the gap between two cultures. It is a reflection of what we as humans should strive for when learning of someone else or some other people. So after watching this film, after reviewing this, is it worth taking the 3 hours and 1 minute or 3 hours and 56 minutes off your death clock? What do you think? Sir watches a lot of porn.
Well, Costner was pulling a Stallone. I'm not getting the roles I want so I can win the awards. So I'm going to make my own movie. Stallone did it with Rocky, and it paid off. Costner did it with Dances with Wolves. And shortly afterward, Mel Gibson does it with Braveheart. And they got all the nominations and some of the awards that they wanted. Good for them. Having said that, the movie's too fucking long. And there's some historical inaccuracies. But again, it's a fictional narrative. It's not a fucking documentary. It's not really revisionist history per se. It's just someone's skewed view of, well, in our movie, we're going to make these guys the good guys and these guys the bad guys. But nobody ever thinks of themselves as the bad guys. So let's be clear on that. People are people, and some people are assholes, and some people are bigger parts of groups. And then these assholes say, hey, I don't like those assholes and stuff like that. And depending on what side you're on, those are the bad guys.
I'm surrounded by assholes.
It's a movie. And yes, Kevin Costner is, some people say like his acting is subtle. It's subtle acting.
It's cardboard.
Yeah. Or you could say that he's a fucking, mannequin Skywalker. I'm not a big fan of the movie. It was fun revisiting it because I don't think I'd seen it all the way through since the days of VHS, but it's worth watching. I don't know if it's worth watching the 4 fucking hour version, and I'm not gonna, but it's not worth watching again and again. I'm not gonna go try to find, the best. I don't even know if it's out in 4K, and I'm the guy who would know that. I have to look it up because I don't fucking care.
Gotcha. Well, how about you, Screaming Flea?
I disagree a little bit with Joey here, or actually quite a bit. One, I think this is a passion project for Costner. I don't think you put up $3 million of your own money and spend 5 years on something unless it's really a passion project for you. He wanted to make the best version of this film possible. Again, it's a fictional film, and there are some inaccuracies. I'm not going to deny that. But he did things like, he was very careful about how the buffalo were treated in it. He wanted it to be authentic, so he made sure that Native Americans play Native Americans, which was huge boon for them. This is one of the first movies that really brings Native Americans to the forefront. And he did even things like, I want everybody to speak legitimate Lakota, Sioux. And even though there's some discrepancies in that because it is a dialect that has male and female parts to it, and they just went pretty much all with the female for simplicity, so it's not authentic with the way they're speaking. He still was insistent that everybody speak it correctly. With that said, it's a long movie, but it's got a lot of beautiful scenery. It's got a really good story to it. I don't always agree with everybody when they're like, oh, it's all about a white man saving the Indian. I mean, is there some of that in there? Yeah, maybe there's some overtones of that for sure. But I still think the basic idea was to bring the Indian culture to the forefront and look at a Western from a different perspective. Even though it's still through a white man's perspective, but it's one white man and his interaction with Indians for the first time, which is a very fresh perspective versus every other Western that we've ever seen, where they're just savages that are attacking settlers and burning down forts and doing all that kind of stuff,
Right,
as we've seen in Rio Grande. So I think it's good in that regard. So I think it's definitely worth your death clock.
Well, how about you, Plays in Traffic?
Dances with Wolves, amazing movie. It features rich landscapes, authentic feel, and it is a genius here with how everything was put together. I would say that it is better than I remembered it was. And being that it clocks in at 3 hours, it, for me, didn't seem like it was really that long. The 3 hours went by very fast. And from the way that Tim described his experience with the 4 hour version, it sounded like Tim also probably didn't really experience that it was that long. It just kind of was good most of the way through. So it was just a pleasure to watch. I would say definitely you should watch it if you hadn't. And if you had, probably I would say you might want to even check it out again at some point in time. I probably will.
Well, I have to agree with Tim and Rick. As Running with Scissors would say, yes, due to the cultural significance, the historical portrayal of 1960s America, it is definitely worth taking some time off your death clock to watch. I realize that the story is not your typical Western story. It's definitely got some different nuances, and it's kind of hard to exactly tack down what it is, but it's worth sitting there and watching, whether you watch the 3 hour and 1 minute or the 3 hour and 56 minute. Well, gentlemen, that has been our review of Dances with Wolves. Ladies and gentlemen, we would love to hear from you, so please leave us some feedback. You can email our show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com, and you can have your email read right here on our show, or leave a comment on YouTube or Spotify, and we'll discuss it here too. Well, gentlemen, now that we've reviewed Dances with Wolves, what else are you watching? What is worth sharing? I'll turn it over to you first, Tim. What are you watching lately?
I haven't had a lot of time this week, so I've just been catching a couple episodes of Final Space, kind of diving back into that old TV series. Enjoying it again, as always. Final Space is utterly hilarious, very well done, and it's an absolute shame that not only did they cancel the series, but then they wrote it off as a tax write-off, and you can no longer find it on any platform anywhere on the planet unless you own it. So if you ever see a copy of that floating around somewhere, you should definitely grab it because it is definitely worth your time to watch.
I've never heard of that series.
Oh, it's fantastic. You should look it up and read about it. I can't even do it justice in even trying to explain it. You should just go read the synopsis about it. And if you're interested, I'm sure I could loan you my DVDs and you can watch them.
Gotcha. So if I look up the synopsis and I read it, should I read it in a wooden tone?
No, you definitely should not, because the main character, Gary Goodspeed, is anything but Kevin Costner's monotone self.
Gotcha.
Wherever Kevin Costner is on the scale of anything, Gary Goodspeed is 180 degrees from that.
Nice. Well, Joey, how about you? What are you watching?
I finished up Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I hadn't seen it in a while, and I think last week I watched like half of it. This week I finished the other half one night. It's just something that came up. It's like, hey, we think you would like this, and it's like, oh, I fucking love that movie.
That's not Snowflake. That's not Snowflake.
Yeah. Yeah. It was fun revisiting Ace Ventura. It makes me sad that the VHS version had a few extra scenes in it, and you don't see those on streaming right now. I'm hoping that those are like in the new 4K. I haven't looked into that. Speaking of 4K, Dances with Wolves not available in 4K. Last Blu-ray release is in 2018. Since then, it was like reissues, and they might not have a beautiful 4K scan because the last release was based on an older scan of the films.
All right. Well, how about you, Rick? What super long title movie are we watching?
Well, all right. So a few weeks back, Tim had mentioned that he caught Mighty Nine. I've been wanting to see it for a little while. Finally, I was able to check it out. It's sort of kind of a spin-off of Vox Machina, but not really. I mean, it kind of sort of is, but it isn't. Basically, it has to do with like some D&D type stuff. So if you're into that, you should definitely check it out. If you are into D&D, you probably already did, though. Anyhow, really good, really good. I had a lot of fun watching that with my son. Of actually, like a week or two ago, I watched the season 2 of Solo Leveling, which is really, really good anime. A lot of times with regard to anime, especially, I've noticed that like there might be a super killer first season, and then the second season is like not as good, and then the third season is not as good, and sometimes these things kind of like they don't ever get like bad. They're just not as good as like how crazy good the first season was. Solo Leveling, it is awesome. And the second season was awesome too. It's basically a story about this adventurer who's like really weak, and then he has this really crazy experience, and then he gains a player type user interface, and he has to do these like weird tasks in order to not die and stuff, and that pushes him to get stronger, which is super cool. It's actually really, really, really good. I highly recommend Solo Leveling. Now, you always ask, what is this really long anime that I've watched? So the short version is Let This Grieving Soul Retire! ! And the full version of this title is Let This Grieving Soul Retire! Woe is the weakling who leads the strongest party. And look, this one is fucking fantastic, man. This one is like really good. But hey, if the name is long and you're watching anime, then it's probably good if it's got a really long name.
Gotcha.
So this one, it's just fun, man. It's just a really fun anime where you have a MC that is actually like really, really weak. He's like super duper duper weak. Matter of fact, he even has these like rings, these artifact rings that he wears. They're called safety rings, and they're constantly being used. Whenever he would die, instead, the ring's power is used. So he's constantly putting himself in situations, not that he wants to, he's just in these situations where he would otherwise die without these rings. And it's really, really fun because you get to hear his internal monologue, but not just his, other people's internal monologue of how he basically just wants to not do anything all day. He is a lazy piece of shit that somehow is part of the strongest party in the land. And the craziest thing about it is that everyone thinks he's stronger and smarter than he is. And you get to hear everyone else's monologue, and it produces, because he is so inferior, he's so weak, it produces a Vicini type of complex in the people around him. Everyone thinks like there's no possible way he could be this dumb. So instead, they imagine some sort of weird excuse to why he would say this. And they use like this roundabout logic of self-fulfilling prophecies of like, he'll say something and then they'll think, oh my goodness, he's totally thinking three-dimensional chess here. And it's just so fun. It's just so fun. The stuff that happens because of this. They even have a name for them. They call them 1,000 Tricks. It's just so fun. It's just so fun. It's called Let This Grieving Soul Retire. Woe is the weakling who leads the strongest party. Really fun. There's, I think 21 episodes, but like any anime, I mean, honestly, you can watch a whole season of anime in like 3 hours, honestly, because they're like 15, 20 minutes long each episode. So
Gotcha.
It's not a very huge time commitment, and it's really, really fun.
Nice. It sounds inconceivable to me.
It really is. If you just want to sit down and you're not thinking for anything too heavy, this one is like perfect.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, I have something I want to mention that I just started rewatching, and I think I'm going to give it to you in Rick's famous lengthy title here. Girl who winds up getting hit by a space toilet and then has to find a new life in the afterlife, reaping the souls of the dead and murdered, also known as Dead Like Me. If you ever seen the HBO series from like 2003, basically it follows a girl named Georgia Lass. She's a teenager with a don't care attitude, and she winds up getting a job working for Happy Time in a temp agency. And on her first day of work, she winds up dying on her lunch break because a toilet from the space station accidentally ejects.
Oh my God.
And it basically obliterates her. They barely are able to find, enough pieces to have a funeral. But the day that she dies, she winds up running into a Grim Reaper who basically grabs her soul, and she becomes a new Grim Reaper. And there's like a whole like Grim Reapers union out there. And each type of death has like 5 or 6 Reapers that do these jobs to bring people's souls to the next life, whether it's hell or heaven or whatever it is that they believe in. So yeah, it's a fun series, just chock full of comedy. You mentioned Vicini earlier.
Vicini, yeah.
This has got Inigo Montoya in it.
Oh yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So
I was wondering who the hell that is. I was like, dude, this looks familiar, but okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something fun to watch, check out Dead Like Me. Rick, you did mention that you like animes and stuff, but where else can our listeners hear some of your stuff?
The reason why I said that my name was War with Souls, and that is because I have a YouTube channel where I focus on Souls games. So Dark Souls, Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and all those type of games. I've got tips videos, trick videos. I got walkthroughs and stuff like that. And I also focus on tactical or strategy RPGs. So games like Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, Tactics, Ogre Reborn, Final Fantasy Tactics, those type of games. I feature those on my channel as well, and that is Dungeon Master Elite. There is no spaces in it. It's just Dungeon Master Elite altogether. And come check it out. And if you're playing any of those games, I'm sure that I can give you a couple tips, things maybe you didn't know about before, and perhaps lead you to have a more pleasurable experience. And perhaps you won't see the screen that says you died too much.
Nice. All right, Tim, you want to take us home?
Thanks for listening to Middle Age Movies Podcast and our review of Dances with Wolves. We hope you've enjoyed it because I know we really want you to be part of our tribe. And if you did enjoy it, please like, subscribe, leave a comment, and share with your friends. Let's make 2026 the year you help us grow this podcast and get the word out to the masses. Not only are you helping to grow the MAM community, but you're doing your friends a salad by keeping them from wasting their precious death clock on crappy movies.
Follow us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Have a comment or suggestion, then email the show at manreviewpodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks, stay cool, and bye, everyone.
Tatanka. That phrase led to a white professional wrestler who was already doing a Native American gimmick. Changed his name to Tatanka in WWF. And yes, he was yet another great figure in entertainment that almost got me to want a mullet when I was a child. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for talking me out of it.
When the lights go down, the big screen gets so bright. I got my favorite beverage, snacks, and my chair feels right. Yeah. Color, silent, black and white. You never know what's on that screen tonight, but you're gonna find out on Middle Age Movie Reviews. Well, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. No, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding. Oh, will I like it? Will I like it? 'Cause you know the death clock. No, it's not rewinding.